Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Kyle Larson in victory lane at Sonoma, getting his second win at the racetrack. At that racetrack, Michael McDowell ends up finishing second. Chris Buescher third after Martin Truex Jr. runs out of gas on the very last lap, barely inches his way across the finish line. Lots of last lap drama there in Sonoma. Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain get into it. Kyle Busch misses out on a top 5 finish, ends up finishing 12th. Loses out on some valuable playoff points as he is now 8 points below the cut line. Missed out on 7 points going from 5th to 12th there. Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain rounding out the top 5. We got Allmendinger, Blaney, Reddick, Bell, and Todd Gilliland with another solid finish, and he finished top 10 in both stages, rounding out the top 10. Nick, I know we talked last week. We said Sonoma was going to suck. I think we can both agree that was a pretty good race. For a road course on the next-gen era, on a brand-new track, we had different strategies playing out. We had people getting into each other. Overall, I thought that was a very good Sonoma race. Jeff Gluck's poll ended up at 79%, said that, yes, it was a good race on the new Sonoma. What'd you think?
Absolutely, yes. Great race.
Yes.
And here's the thing. I know when we talked about it on, I guess we recorded on Wednesday, I was less optimistic, but then I thought about it more, and I was thinking with the repave, like, we'd probably see more dive bombs because there's more grip, and probably, you're just on the edge a little bit more. So when I recorded Running Hot on Thursday, I was like, actually, I think this race could get kind of wild. And so, I changed my mind from our podcast to my Running Hot podcast. And I was like, I actually think this is going to be a good race. So early week me takes the L, but late week me takes the W on that. I did think it was going to be a good race. Now, that said, I'll have thoughts and opinions on Iowa that I don't think I'll be changing. But, yeah. But, no, I'm very pleased with Sonoma. It was a great race. Tires mattered at Sonoma. We saw tires matter even after a repave. How cool is that? We saw it in the Xfinity race too. The tires mattered. Different strategies. So, yeah, big kudos all around to everybody that made that race happen, from the repave and NASCAR and just the teams embracing it and putting on a good show. Really exciting race. And second week in a row, we have somebody running out of fuel in the last lap, or the last couple corners there, if you will. We had both Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. running out of fuel. We had, obviously, Ryan Blaney the week before. So teams have been, even when they can make it to the end, they've decided to pit right at the very beginning of the window and cut it as close as possible, and then not tell their drivers they're cutting as close as possible, and then leaving their drivers out to dry. So that's 2 weeks in a row now. This might be the start of a trend. I don't know.
Trend?
But yeah, that's part of it. We see, and it happens in races where tires matter more, where you want to come in earlier, and then if you're coming in earlier, to get that advantage of the undercut, so we call it, so you get the fresher tires sooner, and then you come out ahead. So you're coming on the very early side of the window, and you're just barely trying to make it on fuel, but if you miscalculate or you run a little too hard and your mileage is different from what you expect, then you're going to run out of fuel. And so it's not going to happen maybe on races like no tire wear, but on races with tire wear, I think this is something that all of a sudden we're seeing a few different races here and there with people running out of fuel. We're cutting it really close, especially when we don't. What's the common theme between Gateway and Sonoma at the end of the race there? Long green flag run to the end. There was no caution from the final pit stop to the end of the race. So that's something we're going to end up possibly seeing more and more of in races where tires matter if we don't get late race cautions.
You mentioned that, crew chiefs tend to or are seemingly not telling their drivers that they're close on fuel. What do you think about that? Because to me, as a driver, I think that pissed me off. Like, Truex was pretty vocal saying, I could have saved. Obviously, I think Truex is good. He's good in points, but that's still frustrating as hell.
Blaney's is even worse because once Christopher Bell had his engine issue, which was 18, 20 to go, Blaney could have saved so much fuel in 18 or 20 laps. Blaney's is even worse, right? Like, he had a 1.5 2-second lead on Austin Cindric the whole last 20 laps. And he could have just coasted into the corners, eased off, done different various fuel-saving possibilities, short-shifted more than he thought he needed to, those kinds of things. So much more. I'd be more mad if I was Blaney, but yeah, Truex was still mad too. Makes sense. Kyle Busch was mad, obviously. Like, it's just, yeah. If I'm the driver, I need to know the fuel number I need to make, because I have ways of, as a driver, I have ways of making a fuel number while still trying to run as fast as possible and or keep traffic behind me as much as possible. Now, sometimes it might not be possible. Maybe Truex had to let 1 or 2 cars go, but that means he doesn't end up on the tail end of the lead lap. He only loses 1 or 2 spots instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and, Kyle Busch was just another frustrating race. Like, he got Chastained. Like, that's all there was to it. I don't care what Chastain says about Kyle Busch, lifting there early in that turn. Like, Busch gave him plenty of room into that turn. Yeah. I don't care what they say. Chastain misjudged it. But, yeah, overall, like, I very good Sonoma race, but it does not make me optimistic for other road course races. I feel like this might have been an anomaly of a race. But still, I cannot complain about this race. Very fun to watch. And we're done with Fox. We're completely done with Fox. We're on to NBC. Fox with a shit show of a performance once again. Not really know what's going on. Missing a bunch of shots and everything else. So another thing, Denny Hamlin blew his engine on lap 2, and that's the first time I think in the next gen era that I've seen an engine blow like that. Like, we haven't seen an engine grenade like that in a while. I thought that was very interesting.
We've had, I think, 1 or 2, but it's so few and far between. That,
I mean, that was like the old days.
That was definitely like the old days. But I think we've had 1 or 2 in the next gen era like that. But like you said, it's pretty hard to remember. I don't recall any specifics, but I'm sure if I went back through every race and every one that was like an engine issue, I'm sure we'd find 1 or 2. But
right,
yeah, pretty rare. Definitely quite rare.
Speaking of strategy calls, obviously that comes into play at road course races. Joey Logano was on the pole. He led the first 16 laps. Caution comes out. Paul Wolf decides to pit him. Logano gets stuck mid-pack, gets damage. What do you think of that call? Because to me, that was classic Paul Wolf trying to be cute. Like, he used to do this with Keselowski all the time. He tries to get too cute, and that team cannot afford to be cute right now. Like, they are in the thick of the playoff hunt with no win. So I just thought that was a very dumb call by Wolf there to pit Logano.
I didn't think so. I mean, you live bet A.J. Allmendinger, who was on the same strategy as Logano there. They came in under that same caution and both pitted there, and Allmendinger would have been first out. Aside from Logano, who got in the crash there, but of the people on that strategy, Allmendinger was first out. So I don't know. I was totally fine with it. I thought that was the strategy Logano should have taken, and I don't think Paul Wolf got necessarily too cute there. And I don't necessarily think Paul Wolf is too cute, because we used to say Paul Wolf was the next Chad Knaus in terms of the guy that was always figuring out the right strategy.
But Paul Wolf has always been super aggressive with his calls, like almost over.
Yeah, and we used to praise him for it. So I'm trying to figure out why now we're saying he often gets too cute, because he used to be the.
I don't think I
Chad
praised him for it.
I remember back in the day. Maybe not you, but he the common theme around the garage and everything, especially when I was doing analysis for like RotoViz and stuff, was Paul Wolf is the next Chad Knaus. He was the guy that was always going to find the interesting, the creative, the right strategy, and led to a lot of wins for Brad Keselowski back in the day on strategy. So I remember multiple races where Brad Keselowski won on Paul Wolf's strategy. So I thought it was fine. I thought it was the right call, honestly. Just because you went back in traffic. If Logano had just stayed out to the end of the stage, then we would, right? You can't have it both ways. you can't have Daniel Suarez stays out to the end of the stage at Coda and then goes back in traffic on the restart there and then gets caught up. And then Logano does it before the end of the stage and then gets caught up in traffic. Like, it's one or the other. But both of them now you're saying is bad because, it's one of those things where, like, okay, you either pit at the end of the stage or you pit before the end of the stage, and he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't then.
But I also think that, like, by the way, I bet Allmendinger after the Logano issue. Like, I didn't
sure,
bet
but
it.
he was still pitting. He still pitted at the same time Logano did.
But it worked out better because it was another caution.
Yes,
that's
but what if Joey Logano had avoided the caution and Allmendinger had been in the caution?
But he didn't.
Then you'd have been betting Joey Logano live. Yeah, but
he got damage.
But Allmendinger didn't.
True. That's why I bet him. That's my point.
Okay, and then if Logano hadn't got damage, everything would have been fine. You would have bet him. That's the whole point. It was a winning strategy. It was a winning. It was the same strategy Allmendinger was in. Logano was just the unlucky one on that strategy.
I don't know. Maybe it was.
But if
just
you're going for the win, that's the right strategy to take.
Anyway, let me see here. Corey LaJoie ended up with an 11th place finish, and the ringers Will Brown and Cam Waters were not overly impressive. Waters got into a wreck. Will Brown, he actually showed decent speed, but I think he had another issue. I forget what happened to him.
Yeah, they had all weekend, like they had electrical power issues kind of stuff.
He had the ECU.
Shoutouts to Bet365 for having Will Brown in top Ford and Cam Waters, or sorry, opposite, whatever it was. Will Brown was in a Chevy, but they listed him in top Fords. And Cam Waters was in a Ford, but they listed him in top Chevys. So shout out to Bet365 for confusing the two.
Gosh. Yeah. But, Buescher comes away with a solid points day, almost gets the win. McDowell, actually, they thought that they could have won that race if it went green a little bit longer. But
man, I had outrights on McDowell and Buescher.
That is unfortunate.
Blaney the week before. It's just it's how it goes this year for me.
It's one of those years, isn't it?
Yeah, I we talked last week, I think it was, like, I felt like, maybe it was a week or two ago, but I felt like I was at the bottom of the luck rankings in terms of, like, my NASCAR seasons, in terms of gambling. Mm-hmm. And that just set me even further in the bottom of the luck rankings. Like, I am the unluckiest bettor of my 10 seasons of betting. Not saying of all people in the whole world. I'm saying of my 10 seasons of betting, this is my unluckiest season for sure.
Yeah. Good thing is there's plenty of races to go, so you could turn it around or continue being unlucky, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else from Sonoma that you got?
Not really. It was a good race. It was, you mentioned Corey LaJoie in 11th, Todd Gilliland in 10th.
Gilliland's been on fire lately.
Yeah, Gilly has been fantastic. If we go back to Martinsville, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 races ago, he's finished in the top 17 in 7 of the last 9 races.
And what I think might be even more impressive during that span is he's qualified in the 30s like 5 times, or I guess in the 20s, 20th or 25th or worse. Like, they're not qualifying as well, definitely not as well as McDowell, but they're still somehow getting these finishes. Like, started 35th at Charlotte, finished 17th, started 35th at Gateway, finished 16th. Did have a good qualifying run there at Sonoma, starting 14th and then finished 10th. So, yeah, Gilligan gets his second top 10 finish of the year. I think, if I'm right, I want to say that's his third top 10 at a road course out of his 8 career top 10s. So he has 1 at Sonoma, 1 at Indy Road Course, and 1 at Coda. Yeah, so three out of his 8 career top 10s have come at road course races. And then, he has 3 of them at Talladega.
And here's the other thing. If we compare Todd Gilliland and Harrison Burton, they're both third-year drivers, third full-time season. they're going opposite directions, right? So Gilliland was 28th in the points his rookie year, 28th in the points last year. Right now he's 21st in points. Harrison Burton, 27th in points his rookie year, 31st in points last year. And this year, Harrison Burton's 33rd in points. Like, he's just going backward. And he's in theoretically equal to or better than equipment than Todd Gilliland has been, especially the first 2 years. And then this year, they're both Penske affiliates. So it's one of those things where one driver's getting better, and one driver, he may not be getting worse, but he's not getting better. And that would be Harrison Burton, not getting any better.
And I think it also a little bit has to do with front row actually investing in the team, whereas Wood Brothers, like, to me, they're a Stuart Haas. They don't care. You know, they're another one of those organizations that really don't care to get.
But at the same time, you know, Ryan Blaney running in a Wood Brothers car, Paul Menard running in a Wood Brothers car, Matt Benedetta running in a Wood Brothers car, have never done this bad.
Never done this bad, no, but I do feel like the next gen era has allowed them, like, they've even taken their foot off the gas even more.
Or others have caught up more, maybe.
Yeah, or it's more equal and yeah.
But it still also is Harrison Burton sucks. Like,
yeah, Harrison Burton's not a good driver. Like, I wasn't trying to say that he was.
right.
And, yeah. But yeah, good run there by Gilliland. Good run by LaJoy. Nice. Zane Smith finally finished a fucking race.
Ryan Preece was having a good race as well, and he got caught up in some things. But he was having a really good race. I was kind of interested in him in like a DFS play, and I wrote up like there's a quartet of drivers I wrote up. It was like Preece, a few others that I don't have to go back to my Fantasy Labs article. But yeah, there was a few drivers that I thought like would be a little too low owned, and they were a little too low owned. And of course, you know, Preece was one of those that I wrote up that was actually having a good day, and then it just didn't work out. Yes, it was Hemric, Stenhouse, Berry, and Preece. So if we look at their results, let's see. Where's Hemric? Hemric was 28th, Stenhouse was 24th, Berry was 32nd, and Preece was 18th. And Preece was the one I was kind of like, I think he might be the best of those four. So I kind of liked going overweight on Preece, and I think he would have been even better than his 18th place finish had he not gotten caught up in one of those incidents.
Yeah, he finished second in stage 2. I don't remember exactly what happened to him, but I feel like he was better than that 18th place run that he had.
Yeah, for sure. So one of those unlucky moments there for Ryan Preece. But yeah, it was an interesting race. And obviously an interesting just overall time in NASCAR. It was, I don't know if you checked like ESPN.com today, but the lead story right now on ESPN.com, like that front and center story, is about Stuart Haas shuttering and NASCAR's charter conversations that are going on. So it's becoming a pretty big story in sports, is how everything's going to play out with this NASCAR season right now and this off season.
I just pulled up ESPN. That is that's surprising. Huh. Stuart Haas,
it's been there all day. It's been there all day.
Might ignite NASCAR's ongoing charter feud.
Yeah. It was a good article to read. I highly recommend reading it. Gives better insight into kind of what's going on with the charter negotiations. But
yeah, I mean, when we know that ESPN does not care about NASCAR at all. So the fact that this is the front and center, especially during, I mean, NBA finals are going on right now. Caitlin Clark and the WNBA is going on right now. Like, that's big. Huh. I'm gonna have to watch or read that. But yeah. Moving on to the point standings. Kyle Larson now retakes the points lead after Chase Elliott or Denny Hamlin's blown engine. So one less start and he's still the points leader. 3 wins now on the year. Chase Elliott moves up second in points. Reddick moves up to fourth. Truex falls to fifth. Still good there on points. He's going to be in the playoffs whether he wins or not. The cut line is now Bubba Wallace, who has an 8-point advantage over Kyle Busch. He has a 16-point advantage over Logano and a 27-point advantage over Briscoe. And then obviously we have Cindric and Suarez that are in on wins. Michael McDowell now 20th in points, looking for a win to get into those playoffs. He is 93 points behind Bubba Wallace. Buescher with a solid points race there at Sonoma. He got 44 points on the race with that stage 2 win and third place finish. He now has a very solid, decently solid 24-point advantage over the cut line. Blaney is 56 points ahead. So, the point standings are going to be a topic of conversation from here on out every single week. And assuming, like, we just saw it. Like, if McDowell would have won this race, we'd be talking about Chris Buescher being the cut line, which would put Ryan Blaney. That would have been the perfect scenario of what you were talking about last weekend. With our defending champion could miss these playoffs this year, but yeah, Larson at the top. Do you think that team has a bit of a, like? Obviously, he got the waiver, as everyone expected, but NASCAR definitely drug that out for a bit. Do you think they have a little extra in their tank now to go for this regular season points championship to give the big fuck you to NASCAR for the little show that they put on? Because if it was me, I would. You're going to try to make an example out of me, but I'm just going to go and show you what this is all about.
But NASCAR, at the same time, isn't making an example out of him because they did give him waiver. It was the dumbest shit ever. The whole waiver saga it was the dumbest shit ever on everybody's side there. Let's be real. Like, why couldn't Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR apply for a waiver ahead of time in case Kyle Larson had a miss? Why did it have to come down to, well, maybe not? They knew about this a year ago. Why was there no, just in case, do we have a waiver? That kind of thing. Let's wait. It's, and I don't want to get back into waivergate because it doesn't matter anymore. But, it's not as much a fuck you to NASCAR as, it was, the situation never should have happened in the first place. And I think it's everybody's to blame.
I think, didn't NASCAR say, though, that, they wouldn't have granted one on events maybe happening? I'm pretty sure that they, specified that they weren't going to go off of hypotheticals. So I'm not sure that would have even been on the table.
Yeah, but this was it's not a hypothetical in that it is a real situation that Kyle Larson's going to be running the 500, and there's a chance he misses the start of the 600.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is a real thing that was going to happen, and sure, maybe it's a hypothetical, but it was still a very non-zero chance of happening, especially with how the weather is in Indy at that time of year. The chances that he missed the start of that race, or I should say, the chances that the weather would have caused a delay to where he missed the start, where he could potentially miss the start of the race if he decided to stay in Indy, was probably 30%. That's how often it rains there in Indy to create a delay in the 500. 20-30%, somewhere in that neighborhood. So to me, that's not a hypothetical. That's a 20% chance of a real event.
Yeah, I think I thought I just heard, or thought I remembered hearing Elton Sawyer say something about
there probably is, there probably was him saying something about that. But at the same time, a hypothetical would be like, what if a guy gets injured? Well, then we know he's getting a waiver. Well, what if a guy is in a rain delay in 8,500? Well, now we know he gets a waiver, so why can't we just decide that ahead of time? If you knew you were going to give him a waiver a year ago, if this happened, why did you have to wait until a year and 2 months later?
Yeah, and that's basically what we all thought was what really happened was, Hendrick already knew that he was going to get the waiver, and it was
which is why I don't really think it's so much a fuck you to NASCAR, because Hendrick already knew. I just think I don't know. I mean, I just think Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin are just the two best right now, and that's how it is. And this wasn't as much a fuck you as Larson just had the best car.
Oh yeah, Larson, absolutely had the best car, and like we said, it was good to see him get his third win. Now we have 3 drivers with 3 wins this year: William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson, which, familiar names, same guys as last year that were running up front all the time. But Truex still winless, Ty Gibbs still winless, Chastain, Bowman, Blaney, Buescher all still winless, and then Bubba Wallace. Those are the guys that are currently in on points.
You know what I think's super interesting? Because we came into Sonoma thinking, like, who's going to take stage points? Who's going to go for the winning strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were 5 drivers that we thought maybe could go for stage points. I especially thought could go for stage points. That was Truex, of course, who doesn't have a win. Ty Gibbs, who doesn't have a win. And those two could, like, really cement themselves in points by just grabbing stage points in a solid finish. And then Chastain, Bowman, and Blaney, who were, like, a tier above Buescher, Wallace, and then Logano, Busch, and Briscoe, and those guys in terms of, like, the bubble. So I was thinking Truex, Gibbs, Chastain, Bowman, and Blaney. Like, if anybody is running for points, it's going to come from those 5 guys. Not a single one of them scored points in both stages.
Right?
Like, everybody either had problems or went on the winning strategy or tried to go on some kind of a winning strategy. Didn't give a fuck about points. But that's going to become... Okay, they didn't do it at Sonoma. But Chicago Street Course, are they going to? Like, that's the next one. Because that'll be another, including Sonoma, it'll be another 4 races for them to have accumulated points, right? Sonoma, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nashville. Before we go into Chicago, to where it's like, okay, well, now do you need to run for points? But looking at Sonoma, like, points racing, strategy, all of that, like, it was a fool's errand to try to chase any of that in terms of, like, betting or DFS strategy.
Yeah, I wonder how much, like, I feel like the cautions definitely were the biggest factor there. I feel like we would have saw some of those strategies play out more if there was, because there was what, 8 cautions in that race. I mean, that was completely unexpected. We typically don't see that at any road course, and then it just opened up the possibility for people to get on or, like, shift their strategies throughout the middle of it. But yeah, nobody scored points in both stages except for Todd Gilliland, and he finished 10th and 8th. Yeah. Nobody else scored points in both stages, so that's definitely, But overall, I think Buescher had, like, the most effective day, I would say, as far as points go, despite starting back in 26th. With that stage when he grabbed 44 points, which Larson only had 48. So Buescher was the second highest scoring driver in that race. So definitely I would say a near perfect race for that 17 team, all things considered. Because, the RFK cars did not have that much speed in practice. They obviously didn't have it that much in qualifying. But they had decent speed on race day, and Buescher ended up with that third. So
it would have been less perfect if McDowell had won, but because McDowell didn't win,
right?
It was a near perfect race.
Yep. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I don't have much more looking at these point standings. Reddick now leads the way in top 10s. He grabbed his 10th top 10 of the season at Sonoma.
Yep. It was a really, really good day, like we said, for Chris Buescher, but also it ended up being a pretty good day for Chastain, Bowman, and Blaney.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because if we look at the points, right, Kyle Busch got 32 points. Chastain got 36. Blaney got 39. Bowman only lost 4 points, so 28, but he was the furthest ahead of them. I think it was, or second furthest ahead. He was right up there with Ross Chastain, so he had a little more wiggle room. So it ended up being an okay day for those guys as well, and Kyle Busch made up ground on Bubba Wallace in the points because Bubba Wallace only scored 17. So the big loser in all that, two big losers. I mean, obviously Joey Logano, but Bubba Wallace also the big loser. Joey Logano clearly should have come away with more points, but didn't because they rightly went for the win. In my opinion, I think they rightly went for the win because they had a potentially winning car. And just got unlucky. You know, it was the same thing that Allmendinger did, and Allmendinger was fine. It's just so happened Joey Logano got caught up in the storm there. But had it stayed green to the end of the stage, Joey Logano is all of a sudden sitting pretty. So it's just one of those things where it didn't work out. But he ended up a big loser from that race as well. So it was Bubba Wallace and Joey Logano were the big losers in that race. And now, as far as the playoff cutoff, you know, Joey Logano 16 points. Out of the cut line there with Bubba Wallace being the guy on the cut line, and all of a sudden, interestingly enough, you know, Chris Buescher's 24 points the good when he was the bubble boy last week.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I for some reason, I just think that those, like, what was it, 7 points that Kyle Busch lost on that final lap are, like, as tight as the points are, I feel like those could come back and haunt him. Like, you know, he's right there behind the bubble, but man, those could definitely come into play here with these final 11 races. No, 10 races. We got 10 races left in the regular season. But yeah, overall, you know, I'd say another good quote unquote winner would be Keselowski, who finished 13th despite starting 35th. You know, that's a good run for that team at road courses, and you know he's now 7th in points, and he has a really good cushion over which obviously he has the win. That point was mute. I forgot his fucking win. Holy shit!
Yeah. No,
I was looking at the zero. I was looking at the zero in the win column, but that's Ty Gibbs, who's now 8th in points, and obviously had that issue with that wall.
Well, and here's the thing. It's so tight between Keselowski, Gibbs, and Christopher Bell, and you want to stay in that top 10 in points because you then do get some kind of playoff points, right? So, like, him finishing 13th is a lot better than him finishing 23rd because he'd be behind Ross Chastain right now, or right there with Ross Chastain battling for a single playoff point. And now he has 3 or 4 playoff points if the standings were to end today, you know, extra in addition to the ones he got for his win. So, all those things matter. They all matter in the end. You know, we've seen playoff cutoff rounds come down to 1 or 2 or ties. You know, 1 or 2 points or a tie in points, and the finishing position of the round determines it. That kind of stuff. So, yeah, every point's huge here.
But yeah, that's all I really got for points standings. I'm not seeing a whole lot more talking points. Obviously, you know, Chase Elliott with another top 5 finish. He's now 2nd in points, like we talked about last week. Just Mr. Consistency, riding it out. I'm honestly, this surprises me. William Byron only has 98 stage points this year, and Chase Elliott has 94. You know, we talk about Chase Elliott not exactly running up front a lot. That really surprises me, and it makes me wonder, could Byron be testing a little bit? We've seen him do it before.
Yeah, very well could be. We've definitely seen Byron test before, but that said, Byron qualified really well and had problems in the race, right? Like his tire went down on. He was blistering his tires on lap 6 or whatever it was. So I don't know if it's testing, but yeah. I don't think, you know, Sonoma is the best track for Byron, and B, there was just other issues in that race.
Pulling up his. Yeah, I'm just like he's just going through quite a bit of a rough stretch here.
For sure.
Last 6 races he has 1 top 5 and only 2 top 10s since Dover. So just interesting set and a small sample size. He obviously has those 3 wins this year, so he's fine. But
right.
They've kind of been off here recently.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Sonoma's a place to test though. It doesn't really help you. Test at Sonoma.
There are isn't there? How many road courses are in the playoffs?
2, but it's still not really helping you. Like, barring a catastrophe, you're gonna make it through the first round if you're Byron. And then the Roval, like, Sonoma's not gonna help you for the Roval, and you're already good at the Roval. And like I said, they were having a good weekend to start. It just all of a sudden their tire blistered and they got a lap down and
I
got caught in traffic and got caught in that turn 11 incident.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Larson gets his second win at Sonoma, and we're on to Iowa. But first, we have our Wine About It segment presented by RotoBaller Winery. And I don't know if I have anything, and I don't think you have much either this week.
No, don't have a whole lot to whine about,
which is surprising for us.
It is, but it's been a year where a lot of the whine about it stuff has been like, everybody's whining about it. We don't like whining about the things everybody's whining about, right?
Right.
Like, we want to find interesting, clever things to whine about, whatever, but I just haven't found, like, especially lately, and I feel like this is maybe just a part of the community we're in. Like, we used to find just, like, the most ridiculous shit from parts of the betting community or parts of the DFS community or parts of NASCAR Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not there right now. IndyCar Twitter is a whole different story right now. If I wanted to whine about it, I'll whine about IndyCar Twitter because IndyCar Twitter is a goddamn mess right now. IndyCar media, IndyCar whatever. Like, IndyCar, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean it in a good way because it's, it's stuff to talk about and no news is, or any news, whatever it is. Any news is good news or something in terms of, like, publicity. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, the Penske controversy with push to pass and stuff. Like, that's publicity for the series. But, I could definitely find stuff to whine about on the IndyCar front. I just don't have anything in the NASCAR front right now, and it's because we're all kind of on the same page. And I think this is part of, like, getting into year 3 of the next gen and some of this other stuff. It's like year 1 of the next gen, there's a lot of problems to figure out. And a lot of uncertainty and a lot of opinions. But now we're, like, not only are you and I on the same page, but, like, the sports books, everybody, like, the lines are so much sharper that the books are setting now than they were a year ago, or especially 2 years ago. That we're all just like, and I just see it across NASCAR Twitter, it's just like, we all agree that it's really hard to find value, and then, like, Christopher Bell's plus 325 this week, and that's stupid. We all agree. Like, it's...
Yeah.
There's nothing to whine about because we're all on the same page. Everybody. Right. I don't care who it is. It feels like almost all of NASCAR Twitter right now is on the same page. Feels like almost all of NASCAR media right now is on the same page. There's nothing controversial, and of the controversial stuff, it's like so over talked about that we can't really whine about it because we like to find the lesser stuff, but oftentimes we'll find nuances within that, but there's just not anything right now.
Because, I mean, like, Fox is an easy punching bag for their production of races. They're not going to whine about that. We beat the dead horse 300 times with that. Overall, like, there's nothing, like you said, it's kind of scary when NASCAR Twitter's all on the same page. Like, that honestly kind of scares the shit out of me because it's so rare. Like, we always, like, ever since I've gotten into this industry, we've always, several people, like, you could always find someone to have a different opinion than you, and it definitely seems like lately, there's just not, it's not out there. Like, we're all just on the same page. So I'm with you there. Maybe my whine about it is the fact that we don't have anything to whine about. That's what I'm going to whine about. We need something to fucking whine about right now.
I'll drink some wine. Well, I won't even say wine. I'll drink some orange mimosa because still got some.
There we go.
So, if we got nothing to whine about, we may as well cheers to happy times, I guess.
Yeah.
It's all kumbaya. I mean, I could keep whining about the same shit I always whine about. My bad luck. I'm not gonna whine about that. Right. Nobody cares. Well, I mean, people care, but nobody cares. Like, I would say I'm like 85% chance to have a losing year this year, and that would be my second losing year since I've started doing this. And you're fucking killing it, but we also have different betting philosophies where I bet a lot early week, a lot midweek, because that's where I find the most value. I bet a lot more longer shots than you. Like you said, you hate betting outrights, and I'm more of an outright better.
Yep.
I also hate like betting after practice and qualifying because the books have even more data. They're even sharper. And if you're going to do it, it has to be like right after. But the only thing that opens up right after where I am is outrights. And then all the top 10 stuff comes out while I'm asleep for Sunday morning, right? So, like, I wake up Sunday morning, I see you and Greg betting this, that, and the other on top 10s. And then by the time I wake up, it's all already moved, right? So I can't even get the race day morning top 10s because they're not there Saturday night after practice and qualifying. They're only there Sunday morning when it's 4 a.m. for me. I'm not waking up for that. So it's the new norm I have to deal with right now. So maybe that's my only whine about it is I'm not on a good schedule for betting right now.
That's one disadvantage you have living in the West Coast is, like you have the perfect time zone to watch sports and all of that, but as far as betting, it's not ideal for you. By the way, shout out to... It didn't
used to be as much of an issue, but lately books are like releasing things the next morning.
Yeah.
Because they're all East Coast based now. Whereas that didn't used to be an issue 1 or 2 years ago even.
Especially when like Sonoma, there was like practice at Sonoma and qualifying were later in the day. Like it was a late qualifying session at Sonoma on Saturday. So they're not going to put stuff up. But yeah, we definitely do have different betting philosophies, and I know for a fact, like you say, you've been unlucky this year. I've been extremely lucky this year on a few races. I will note I didn't really mention it on. Or when we were talking about Sonoma, but that was one interesting thing was, like, I've been paying a lot of attention to live betting this year, and the final run there, where Larson was, like, closing in on Buescher and McDowell and Truex, books didn't know what to do. Larson literally went from minus 300 to the next lap he'd be plus 200 to back to minus 110. Like, they did not know.
When you say books didn't know, what do you mean? Because every book I was looking at had Larson at minus money the whole last stint. Every book I was looking at, which is ESPN, BetMGM, Caesars. But I can't do Bet365 Live. So.
Oh. Bet365 and ESPN Bet both were going back and forth.
Larson, with the whole time at the end, Larson was minus money on ESPN. The last.
No, he wasn't because I bet it.
No, you bet it at Bet365. Yeah.
I bet it at ESPN Bet too.
You tracked it at Bet365.
Yeah, I did.
He was ESPN Bet. He was minus money. I was following that like a hawk.
I'll show you my screenshots of ESPN. I swear it was plus money. I'll show you timestamps.
But not like, okay, maybe plus 125.
No, it was plus 2 or plus 300. I swear.
Nah. I was watching
on that final stint. He was plus 300 because I texted my friends and I was like, "Bet this now." I have no clue why they would have this line. But then the next lap he went to minus 200. It was fucking weird. I'm telling you.
Maybe it was when I flipped over to MGM for a minute because that's the other problem is you have to flip between 8 different apps and.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I never caught him. Trust me, if I caught him plus 200 on the last stint, I would have bet it. But flipping between BetMGM, Caesars, ESPN, FanDuel Boyd, whatever it is that has that line, just flipping between everything I can get money on, and Larson was minus 125, I think, everywhere except apparently ESPN. But when I saw it, and I kept checking, he was out, I think at best plus 125.
I'll show you the screenshots. I swear it was longer. And then obviously, like I said, 365 they laid a stupid line there for a while. Which, gotta jump on while you can.
Because when you track it, I have your notification set up. I went and looked at ESPN and it was minus 200 or something.
No, I think I bet ESPN. I'll check them. But anyway, that's gonna do it for Wine About It today.
Nothing to whine about, really.
Yeah, nothing to the not much to whine about. Wine About It. But as always, make sure you check out Luvabella Winery, the Brew Kettle. Make sure you check them out. I got a DM the other week. Some guy was in Columbus and stopped at the Brew Kettle and said he really liked the beers. Yep. Heard about it on the podcast, so that's very cool. But we are on to Iowa, newly repaved Iowa. Well, like Frankenstein repaved Iowa. That's how Gluck described it, because they were gonna patch it up and then they just decided to do the bottom groove in the corners, which from all the feedback we've received and heard from the drivers that tested was basically like this race is not going to be good in the most trying to be positive way. Christopher Bell, as each interview has gone on and you replied to me with one of the interviews, and the first one he was super optimistic, but then by the last one that you sent me, even Christopher Bell is saying that this race is probably going to fucking suck.
Yeah.
Where could we see another? And Ryan Stevens from Win the Race, he texted me today and he's like, if you guys need something to talk about, do you think that this new Iowa is going to be like North Wilkesboro, where you just can't do anything, and if you get the lead on the restart, it's game over?
It's looking ugly.
It is, and it's hard.
There's one thing. Okay, so there's Sonoma just repaved, right? And there was a lot of ways it could have gone. It could have been single file. It could have been wild. There's less ways Iowa can go because half the track, meaning the upper half of the track, is still old as fuck. So you can't even use that. You are always going to have more grip on new pavement than old pavement. So not only is the upper half of the track older pavement, it's also the longer way around. So it's literally unusable. So you can only use the bottom half of the track, which means at most, and I listen to all the drivers' interviews, at most, we might have 2 grooves of racing. You can fit 3 cars, but there's only at most, and that would be if it rubbers in and takes Rebel and all that really well, and they do this tire drag-in or whatever it's called and get it to wear in a little bit. At most, we're going to have 2 grooves of racing. But what could happen that could create incidents, as Denny Hamlin is talking about, is if you can get inside of somebody,
push them up.
You can just force them up into the old shit.
Yep. Which could eat away at their tires, which then Yep. So that's where be Iowa something. Could get interesting.
Yeah, but that's assuming you can do that. That's assuming you can get underneath the driver in front of you. Are you going to be able to? That's the question.
And that, I don't know. We did. I mean, I guess here's the first question: What tracks do you consider the most comparable to Iowa right now?
None.
Iowa's. Well,
There's nothing that's comparable to Iowa. Phoenix is Phoenix's age did enough. Yeah, I mean, Phoenix is a mile, so the closest thing to 7/8 of a mile is either 3/4 of a mile or 1 mile. And we're not taking Richmond because that's old as fuck. So you have to take Phoenix because that's newer, even though it's not new in terms of track surface age. So you have to say Phoenix.
What about North Wilkesboro
North Wilkesboro's tiny.
or Gateway?
Gateway is super flat, bigger. It's
Isn't Iowa flat?
Iowa.
It's a short flat track, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think it's more banked than. Yeah, Iowa's 14 degrees banked, and Gateway is 9 to 11 degrees banked. That's a huge difference, honestly. Like Iowa, in terms of banking, is more like Nashville than it is Gateway. But Nashville's concrete and has tire wear because it's concrete. So there's nothing that compares to Iowa right now except maybe Phoenix.
Which, I mean, and you talked about Christopher Bell.
You have to slow down more at Gateway because of the egg shape as well. Like one of those turns radius is so tight. You have to slow down. And it's flatter. So and it's an older surface, so you just have to slow down a lot more. Like, I don't think I would use Gateway really much at all to compare to Iowa.
And there's quite a few drivers that have ran at Iowa before, but they pretty much all said this is a completely different racetrack, and that you can throw everything out, like, which makes it incredibly difficult. We once again get one practice session, then we get a qualifying session this weekend, but definitely hard to, like, obviously Christopher Bell's a favorite heading in. That team has been so good on this type of track this year, but like you said, it's unbettable. Like, he opened at 5, and I even thought at 5 I wasn't touching it, and now he's plus 325 or whatever, and there's 0% chance I'm touching him at plus 325. Obviously there's a bunch of money going in on Bell, but I couldn't even bet it at 5. But I do agree that he probably should be the favorite heading into this race, though.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't see why he should be a favorite over Denny Hamlin.
You think? Well, I mean, Hamlin's arguably been the best on the short tracks this year.
I don't see why he should be a favorite over Kyle Larson. I don't see why he should be a favorite over maybe Ryan Blaney or like William Byron. I just think they're all kind of equal right now in an unknown situation. I just think they're all kind of equal, and I don't think this is your typical short flat track. This is more like Phoenix, like we said. And honestly, Christopher Bell hasn't been amazing at Phoenix. Obviously, he did win earlier this year, so that's like the one exception. But overall, he hasn't been amazing at Phoenix.
Yeah, before that absolute rocket ship he had this year, he was about a 10th place car. Like he actually, I always thought he underperformed at Phoenix compared to what his short flat track skills are, until they just fucking hit on something this year.
Yeah. Which,
and then we saw
factors into it. It definitely factors into the fact that they did hit on something this year. But to me, that still just kind of puts them equal with everyone. All those other top drivers.
And I don't remember as far as like practice are they doing one big practice this week? Let me see. I had this stupid pop-up on J-Ski.
Yeah, I think they're doing one big practice because it's a new track.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Tires this weekend are... So they're using the same tires as the prime tire from the All-Star race.
Yeah.
And then the teams that tested here on May 28th were Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, and Christopher Bell. Do you think that those teams have any advantage due to the tire tests? Obviously, at Sonoma, it was Chastain, Truex, and Barry that were the ones that tested on the new Sonoma.
No.
Minimal.
Yeah, I think people put too much weight into testing because you're acting like, not you specifically, but you, the collective you, is acting like, oh, Christopher Bell tested. He's going to be amazing here. But Right. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs all got that test data.
Yeah.
That's not stuff that's withheld from the rest of the team. Plus, each manufacturer has sent a guy, so each manufacturer has their own data that they get to use, and that gets spread out through the manufacturer. Like, it means minimal. It doesn't mean nothing, but it means minimal.
I think it's more of a confirmation bias than anything. Because, Christopher Bell, flat track, and he tested. It's just like, it's one more thing you add onto the pile of, this is why Christopher Bell should be the plus 300 favorite heading into the race.
Right. Yeah. But how did Josh Berry do it, Sonoma?
Garbage, because Josh Berry's garbage.
But that's the whole point. We only use it as confirmation bias because we want to use it as confirmation bias. Yep. We didn't use it as, now Josh Berry's going to be good, because we didn't want to.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's human nature, though. Like, when you can use something... Like, it's one thing when you have a full field test session or a near full field test session, like IndyCar often has, and it's like Penske, Ganassi, Penske, Andretti, Penske, Andretti, like, are the top teams in testing, and then all the other 20 cars. Because that's like almost the whole field, right? So you actually have meaningful data for almost the whole field. So I think we have 3 cars out of 36. 1/12 of the field. You don't even have times for them. Like, we don't have testing times. We don't know how those drivers did. Right. We don't know what their agenda was. You don't know what they were actually... exactly. You don't know what their agenda was during
the only time I used it was... What was it, like Chris Buescher? There was like the 6-car test at Phoenix or something where each manufacturer got 2 cars. And they did like mock races, and you could just see who was passing the fuck out of who. Yep. And that's how I knew Christopher Bell was hooked up at Phoenix. But... that's not what we have here. That's not the case here. That is a different type of testing scenario. That is a 2-day test with gazillions of laps, with recorded races on YouTube. It's so different than, I tested here and that was the tire test. So
right.
I just, I don't care who tested here. I didn't care who tested at Sonoma. I didn't care.
Yeah. No, it's something to note, or that like I've mentioned, but it factored nothing into any I never really factor in.
Ross Chastain tested at Sonoma, and guess what? He finished 5th. It was a lucky 5th place finish. He probably should have been like 7th or 8th with the punting Kyle Busch and Truex running out of fuel and that kind of stuff, which is where he's finished the past couple of years,
Right.
And it was almost even more lucky because of all the incidents that happened to some of the top drivers this year, like Logano, who arguably could have been a top driver in the race this year. Allmendinger Allmendinger finished ahead of him, but actually no, he didn't.
Gibbs.
But, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin. Obviously Denny Hamlin wasn't amazing, but from qualifying, but had a good long run car in practice. It's just, the whole point is like, testing didn't help us evaluate Sonoma better because it's 3 cars. I don't think testing's going to help us with Iowa. I don't care. I just honestly don't care about the Iowa test. All I care about is what the drivers are saying, and that the track is going to be 1 groove, maybe 2 grooves, and maybe you can get underneath somebody and force them up into the old track.
And that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to see, but it's also, it's how we handicap this race and try to predict how it's going to end up. Qualifying is going to be huge. Track position is going to be massive. Once again, we talk about that pretty much every single week, but this, like, when we have a specific situation like this in a track like this, it's even more apparent, I guess would be the word, or trying to think of the word I'm trying to say here. Even more important, I guess. But it also, like, we really don't have anything to go off of, and like you said, there's really no great comparable tracks. So practice should tell us a bunch, but at the same time could make us overreact to certain people, because things can change. So It's going to be a very interesting race weekend. Once again this year, I feel like we're saying that a lot, but it is, and that's just how this season has been. Plus the fact that we get a night race, Father's Day night race, which I forgot about. I was surprised that they're doing another night race, but practice is during the evening, and then qualifying is in the middle of the afternoon. So just something to note there. There's difference in times. But you have any other thoughts on Iowa other than it's going to suck? And
yeah, any interest in, and Jim Sonis asked me this, but I was already here before he asked me. Any interest in Joey Logano? Because that's who I'm interested in.
I think you have to, right?
Just we saw. Here's all the things I have in Joey Logano. We saw North Wilkesboro, right?
Yep.
Won the All-Star race. Same tire. New pave. We just had a new pave at Sonoma, and look how fast he was. Joey Logano's always good at new tracks, new paves. The first Clash, remember that?
Yeah.
It just seems like Joey Logano, whenever we go to a new pave, a new track, first time at Gateway, right? It just seems like he kicks ass. And if we were going to talk the most comparable tracks to Iowa, well, Phoenix. Sure, he wasn't great at Phoenix, but Ryan Blaney is always great at Phoenix. And if you go back to that Phoenix test that I was talking about where Christopher Bell smashed, Blaney was the other guy that smashed. The Clash, when like I said, Joey Logano on the repave, new repave. It just seems like every time we go to a new track, Joey Logano is up there. And then you add in the comparable tracks, and then you add in the new repaves. All that stuff. It's all coming up Joey Logano for me.
I can't disagree with you. And yeah, like the new track thing is, I didn't even think about the repave track though. That's a very good point. Huh. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm with you. I'm with you on, I don't think Christopher Bell should be this heavy of a favorite. And I don't understand why anyone would bet it now. Because he typically, like, we rarely see him qualify well. So that, I think those odds are going to get longer after practice and qualifying.
Bristol Dirt the first year, not when it was like having like massive tire fall off. When it like wasn't dirted right,
Uh-huh.
Who won? Joey Logano.
Where's he at? 12-1? Is that where Logano's sitting right now?
I like that. Like, I do like that. And it's funny because Jim messaged me, and I hadn't made any bets yet. I've made 0 bets, nothing. But the one I was going to make, if I had to make a bet, and I'm not saying I have to, I don't, but if I had to make a bet, it would be Joey Logano 12-1. But I haven't made it because I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm there yet with anything. Like, I just don't have anything I want to bet right now for this race. Maybe Reddick at 16, but that's at the Canby books, which I can't get down on. Like, Reddick was really good at Phoenix this year. He was pretty good in the All-Star race.
I think you might have talked me into Logano. God, Christopher Bell is minus 500 for a top 10 at FanDuel and DraftKings.
I don't like betting on anything that's certain here. Right? You can't bet a minus 500 at a track we've never been to.
I wouldn't bet
repave at a partial repave. Like, yeah, this is a great week to not bet, in my opinion. It's a great week for me to focus on the European soccer tournament. So, yeah, that's probably what I'll be doing. I have running hot. I have to give out 4 picks and a victory lane pick. I might give out a lot of leans or a lot of opinions as my turn picks. I don't think I'm going to be betting a lot this week.
This is reminding me of North Wilkesboro. We had the same mindset there. We didn't want to bet it. The only bet I put in on North Wilkesboro was in race Joey Logano, just because I saw how the race was playing out. And if it stayed green, nobody was passing it.
I made 2 bets. I think one was Hamlin because I like him, and I think I value him. And the other one was Larson in case like qualifying rained out or something.
Yep.
I think that's all I bet.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think they finished second and third or something. Second and fourth maybe.
I will note
That's how this whole
I did
year's
make.
going.
Yeah, exactly. I will note I did make 2 top 10 bets today when they opened at Caesars. I bet Hemric 75-1 just because.
But that's the kind of bet I like. Like I like that bet. I love that bet. Okay.
And
I'm
then
on board with that.
I grabbed LaJoy at 40-1. Like those are the type of bets that I have made so far. Like just small little bets because they were stupid long. That the right circumstances they end up somehow in the top 10.
I'm on board with those. Yeah. I think those
Yeah.
are fine. Obviously, they're not. Those aren't the prices they are now. But yeah, the prices you got them, I do like that.
Yeah, it's that's the type of week it is though. I have nothing. I'm betting Daniel. If I'm betting Daniel fucking Hemric, like something's wrong.
Yeah. I love how you bet Hemric at what'd you say 75-1 for a top 10?
Yeah,
That was at Caesars.
yeah.
Why is David Starr 40-1 at Caesars for a top 10?
I have no idea.
If Hemric was 75,
They both opened 75, then they moved him to 40.
they moved David Starr to 40.
They moved David Starr to 40.
Can I get a no on that?
Right? Well,
I will pay $1 million to win $1 on David Starr not getting a top 10.
I'm clipping this and tagging him in this video.
I will lay $1,000,000 against David Starr getting a top 10. $1,000,000
I think that would be a certainty to hit, by the way, because someone tweeted me right before this episode, and I think they withdrew from the race. Which, thank God.
Well, then it doesn't even matter now. So why'd they shorten him to 40-1 then?
I don't know. But that's what helped me find that line was I was looking at Bet365 and they had Hemric and Starr at like 35-1 for a top 10. And I'm like, that's fucking hilarious that they have Hemric at the same like Hemric's bad, but that 66 car is an absolute piece of shit.
Well, and so is the driver.
Yeah, and so is the driver. Yeah, so you have the worst combination possible, and they're still putting them both in the same lot. Like that just cracked me up.
Didn't David Starr race a race this year already?
Martinsville, remember that race? Where he was
no, because I was at Long Beach. I was at Long Beach.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was like that shitboxy.
Oh yeah.
He was a full. So okay. I'm looking at qualifying right now. He was a second slower in qualifying than the next slowest car. Well,
yes.
0.9, but a second.
Yes. That car was so bad. I went to that race. My buddy that went with me never watches NASCAR. He goes, "Why is that car so bad? It doesn't make any sense." And I'm like, "Thank you. That's
okay. Yeah.
That's
So
all I need to hear."
In practice, he was 0.8 of a second, 8.5 of a second slower than Josh Williams, who also isn't very good. He was 8.5 of a second slower, which equates to, I should say, 4 miles an hour slower. And then in qualifying, he was 0.9 of a second, not mile an hour, 0.9 of a second slower than Michael McDowell, which equates again to 4 miles an hour at the speeds
at
they were
a
going.
half-mile racetrack.
At a half-mile racetrack.
Just that would actually, if we want some drama to happen in this race, keeping David Starr in the race would cause that because he doesn't get out of the way of the leaders, and his car is going to be so slow they're going to catch him quick.
Yeah,
like that could create where they have to somehow get past him on Sunday night. You know, that's the hope we could potentially have here for this Iowa race being good is once again David Starr getting in the middle of fucking everything and fucking everything up.
$1,000,000 for a top 10.
Gosh, at Caesar Sportsbook, let Nick put $1 million down David Starr to not finish top 10.
To win $1.
Yeah.
I would do it. I would do it. I wouldn't think twice.
That's funny.
Hold up. I'm pulling up David Starr's career stats. The last time David Starr had a top 10 in the Cup Series was in 2017. No, sorry, that was Xfinity. David Starr's never had a top 10 in the Cup Series.
I don't think he ever has.
Last time he had a top 10 in any series was 2017 in the Xfinity Series, when he finished 5th at a Super Speedway, Daytona. His last top 10 in a non-Super Speedway looks to be... In the trucks, it was 10th at Chicagoland in 2012. In Xfinity, it was non-Super Speedway. Still looking for non-Super Speedway. Never had one in Xfinity. Never had one in Cup. Never had one in Xfinity at a non-Super Speedway. So 2012 was his last non-Super Speedway top 10 finish. And that was in the Truck Series and was a 10th place finish.
He deserves a full-time ride in the Cup Series.
He is 56 years old. To be fair, he's only 16 years older than me.
I just don't understand why he's racing. Like, why? Why is that 66 car racing, and why is David Starr in the car?
I would go out on a limb and say I have as much talent as David Starr does. In a race car.
Him at Martinsville was a problem. He was a literal hindrance on the track. And we've seen it like every time he races. It's an issue. Especially like the one Bristol year with Chase and Harvick, that was partially David Starr's fault.
That was so
Truex
bad.
not winning the championship in 2021 or 2020, David Starr's fault.
I'll be fair to David Starr. 2002 to 2004, he won 3 truck races.
Yeah, he has decent truck series
but
stats.
You know, he was also in 2002 25 years old. 25 to 27, like perfect prime age. He also raced for Spears.
He was 34 in 2002.
I was off by 10 years. 34 to 37, which is still prime in NASCAR. Like your prime in NASCAR is 25 to 38 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But he raced for Spears Motorsports, which was, I believe, actually not horrible. No, they were pretty horrible. They weren't great. They weren't horrible. They ran like 6th to 15th when they were in the Truck Series. I was trying to look at any other drivers win for them besides David Starr. Dennis Setzer got a win for them towards the end of Setzer's career. Kevin Harvick ran some races for them in 1998, before he was even a rookie in the Cup Series. 1997 even.
Interesting. We should rename this, since I don't hate Denny Hamlin anymore, but I will always hate David Starr. We should rename this podcast Stacking Stars.
Yeah. David Starr says. There's no two ways about it. Like, stacking Dennys was not even because you hated Denny Hamlin. It was just like Corey LaJoie had just come out with stacking pennies. Not like just, but it'd been out a little while. And then LaJoie and Hamlin had the feud.
Yeah.
It's like right when you were looking to do a podcast. It was right in the middle of the LaJoy Hamlin feud.
Perfect
so
timing.
Like, we got to do stacking Dennys.
True. Oh. But yeah, let's get to our picks to win and 36 for 36.
We could always, record the podcast in the middle of a nice outdoor nature area and call it Stars and Parks.
That's funny.
Okay, yeah, 36 for 36.
All right. Picks to win. Last week I had Ty Gibbs. What a clunker that was. You had Allmendinger, who finished 6th. You get to go first this week.
So let's go over the average finish in picks to win, huh?
Oh, yeah. You now have your average finish is 10.375. Mine is 11.9375. So,
what's my worst
advantage
finish?
there?
What's my worst finish in picks to
you
win?
had Bell at Talladega. He finished 38th. And you had Blaney at Texas, who finished 33rd.
Everything else has been pretty good.
Yep. I will note that over the last 4 races, I had Gibbs, who finished 37th at Sonoma, Truex, who finished 12th at Charlotte, and Truex, who finished 25th at Darlington. So, a little bit of a rough stretch right now for me. But you get to go first here for Iowa.
Pick to win for Iowa. Man, this sucks.
I have a feeling you're going to go Logano.
Yeah, I do like that pick. And it honestly feels kind of safe. I don't know how the strategy is going to play out at all.
You've also not picked Logano this year.
Yeah. Well, he's not a guy that really wins. Plus, like, before the year, I think I was leaning towards his under 1.5 wins. Under 2.5 wins. I think it was 2.5 at some books and 1.5 at some books. Because I think Greg took over 1.5. And I was like, I don't think I'd take anything at 1.5, but I think I would definitely take under 2.5. But I didn't hate over 1.5 at all. So I wasn't like, I'm not saying like against Greg. Just I think I was a no play at 1.5, but I think he liked it. But I do think Logano's been showing a little bit of upside here and there. It was Gateway, Sonoma, Richmond, he finished 2nd. So obviously North Wilkesboro, but the theme between all those is either short flat or new repave, right? Richmond, Gateway, Sonoma, Martinsville. That's pretty much all Logano's been good at this year: short flats and new repaves or whatever. So yeah, I think
You going Logano?
I think this is a good 36 for 36. We could take Logano, but we both already took him, and we both took him on really good weeks. So kudos to us on that. This is a tough week, man. It's a tough week. Who else would I take to win? I think Bell's the obvious pick, and I'm sure you're going to take Bell if I take Logano. I'm not taking Bell, though. I think it's just, like, 2. Obviously, Bell's going to be good.
I kind of want to take Bell to jinx Bell.
Like, he won both stages at Gateway. He was fucking dominant at Gateway. He was dominant at Phoenix, the test, especially. He was good at North Wilkesboro, but not as good as Hamlin or Logano, I don't think. Maybe it was right around Hamlin, but I mean, it was Logano, Blaney, Hamlin, and Bell, and kind of Larson. Like, those were the 5.
And I want to say Bell might have got some damage on one of those restarts at North Wilkesboro.
Like, I think it has to come from those 5.
I'd agree.
I'm just gonna do it. I haven't been like crazy risky this year. I'm just gonna take Logano for pick to win.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna go Logano if you didn't.
He'll finish 33rd. I'm quite convinced of that. No, he won't finish 33rd. He's just gonna run like shit. He'll run like 18th.
I'm Let me think here. I like the Logano pick. I actually do. You know who I'm going to go with? This one's going to be out of left field. This is going to be out of left field for you. Give me Brad Keselowski.
I like that.
Fourth at Phoenix.
Good at Gateway.
Good at Gateway. Was, I know Richmond's not a great track to compare to, but he was good at Richmond. And that team they're putting themselves in position every single week to be up front. Give me Brad Keselowski.
I don't mind.
Got two forwards. We got two forwards for our picks to win this week.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, something
I
just
wouldn't say
tells
I'm
me,
high on him, but I definitely don't mind it given the spot.
Yeah.
I'm not low on him. I think I'm pretty much neutral on everybody except Logano and Bell.
I think Kez is accurately priced at 12-1 this week.
I agree with that. Is this the week to go Austin Cindric?
I was looking at his top 10 odds, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. Right now, Cindric is 2-1. See, that's not good enough for me. Nope. All right, now, okay, I got Keselowski, you have Logano. Now is where things get interesting. What the fuck do we do with 36 for 36?
I don't know.
This is tough. We both have Bell. We both
Todd
have
Gillen.
Truex.
I'm in. Todd Gillen.
You're going Gilly?
Yes.
You know what's funny?
What's funny?
That was my initial, like, when we started this episode and I was looking at my drivers, I was like, this could be a week to go Gilly.
I'm doing it. Todd Gillen. 7 of the last 9 races finished 17th or better. The ones he didn't were Texas and Dover, which have nothing in common with this track. 17th at Phoenix, 16th at Gateway. '13th at Martinsville. Let's look at the Truck Series. 2nd at Gateway. 2nd at Gateway. 24th at Gateway, but led the most laps. And DNF at Gateway. Which, DNS are DNS. Finished 6th in stage 1 there before DNFing. I think we just kind of have to go Todd Gillen this week. And you know what? I wasn't looking at this. You said you were initially looking at it. I wasn't looking at it. I literally just decided this on the fly. Haven't given 36 for 36 a thought until we just pull up 36 for 36.
That's a good pick. I like that pick. Cannot.
I'm not gonna overthink it. Like, could I use them at other tracks? Absolutely. Could I use them at road courses, super speedways, drafting tracks, whatever? I got other guys I can use at road courses and drafting tracks. We already talked about it last week.
Here's the thing with 36 for 36 this week, you're not using a top tier guy. I don't think that's smart because we don't know what's going to happen here.
Right.
So when I look at my not top tier guys left, I have Austin Dillon, Daniel Hemric, Todd Gilliland, John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse, Zane Smith,
Chase Briscoe,
Chase Briscoe. I do have Briscoe, but I kind of have him penciled in for Phoenix too.
I'm penciling in a championship driver for Phoenix too.
I'm banking on, not banking on, but I'm hoping I have a big enough lead that I won't need to do that. I hate to piggyback and follow suit here, but I'm going Gilliland as well. I think this is a good time to go Gilly.
Oop. I'm going on the wrong format. There we go. All right.
I think I'm going to add it, by the way. What?
I was going to say, what's Gillen's top 10 odds? 9 to 1
say
at
12 to 1.
9 to 1 at Caesars. I don't know if FanDuel or BetMGM are up. I got to pull them up because FanDuel's up. Yep. It hasn't been pulled into the app yet. 5.5 at FanDuel.
Oof.
Not up yet at BetMGM.
Gilly's 9 to 1 at 365.
Let me check ESPN. I don't think they have it up yet, but in case they do. Yeah, they just have top 5 at ESPN. So yeah, 9 to 1 is the longest right now on Gilly Gang. Which I honestly don't hate. I don't like, but I don't hate. And we talked about his qualifying. It's not good enough to make me want to bet it early week, I don't think.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. But then he'll have like a week like at Sonoma where he goes out and qualifies 14th.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know I was just giving a bunch of gateway stats for Gilly, but I feel like it's good enough for Iowa and how good he is at certain places. Because I don't see, I don't think they ran Iowa in the Truck Series. No, they didn't. That's why I was giving gateway stats. Oh, they did run Iowa in 2019. He finished 10th.
I'm looking at Fanatics right now. Hemric is along with Kaz Grala plus 4250 for a top 10 there. David Starr is plus 4500.
Oh, the massive discount from 4,500 to 4,250.
Give me a head-to-head on Hemric versus Starr. Give me a head-to-head on anybody versus David Starr.
God, remember when see, that's the whole thing, remember 2 years ago we used to get that shit? We'd get, BJ McLeod versus Cody
Shit
Ware,
special.
and Cody Ware would be a second a lap faster, and they'd be, equal money to each other.
Yeah. But then Cody Ware would wreck on lap 3.
Yeah, exactly.
McLeod would fucking...
It'd be the bet of the century, and Cody Ware would still wreck on lap 20. Man, the more I look at this, the more I like this Todd Gilliland thing.
What is going on? Just a second. Let me look at something quick. I'm flustered. I think it's just the max that they do, but
here we go.
I'm
Arkham
looking...
Menards Series West. Todd Gilliland, 2 wins and 2 starts at Iowa.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I mean, he won almost
everything. I like this Todd Gilliland pick here. I think we're both on that.
Arca East, which I think was a crossover with ARCA West. I actually don't think that counts as 2 separate wins. I think that's the same win, just applied to 2 different series. But yeah, he's pretty good at these types of tracks, Todd Gilliland.
I am I'm shocked that like Daniel Suarez is 200 to 1 this week
For a
I don't know,
win?
that just seems so long to me.
No, it doesn't.
Like,
What's
obviously,
Daniel
I don't
Suarez
think
ever
Daniel
done at a track like this?
I know, but just like it's so weird seeing someone that's in like Suarez's position to be 200 to 1. I'm with you. I don't think he has any chance of winning this race, but it's just weird. Because, well, I pulled up Tipico, and David Starr was the first one listed at 200 to 1 odds. So he's listed above 15 other drivers, because they have like 15 drivers or 16 drivers listed at 200 to 1. And I'm like, why the fuck is David Starr ahead of all these guys of like Austin Dillon, Stenhouse, but they're all the same. They just have Starr listed first for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this Gilliland play. For 36 for 36, which sucks because I don't gain anything on you. This past weekend, 36 for 36 was a big week for you because I didn't get what I could have gotten from Austin Cindric, and
Cindric shit the bed, and
you got everything you basically could from Buescher.
Yeah, that was and I want to do a comparison. I want to add a column to this so we can compare points you got from Buescher versus points I got from Buescher.
Well, I mean, that was 24-point edge for you.
Yep, that's what I was looking at.
It's the same thing with Logano. Like, I picked Logano on one of his best weeks, and you still gained 10 points on me with your Logano pick.
I know. That's just it goes back to your unlucky shit this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been pretty unlucky this year. I'm not gonna lie. Like, if I could do 36 over again, I honestly don't think I'd change much. I might change the Riley Herbst pick I made at Kansas, where we thought he was going to be in Stewart-Haas equipment, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, if I had known he wasn't going to be in Stewart-Haas equipment, I never would have picked the 15 car there. You know what I mean? Like, that's just abysmal. Picking a wear car, especially one as bad as Riley Herbst. Tilting, man. Tilting.
Frustrating for sure.
But, no, I mean, the 36 for 36 has been fine. Like, I haven't been that unlucky, honestly. It's just been...
I've been quite lucky. Buescher, like I said, going into that race weekend, I was like, shit, I made the wrong pick for 36 for 36. Because Buescher just didn't look good before the race, but ended up fine. Then, me getting Keselowski finishing second at Texas was...
yeah, that's massive, given he wasn't actually that good at Texas.
Exactly.
He ran in the 20s all day until he caught that pit cycle fuck-up thing.
And then,
but that's how it goes.
Having Logano at Richmond getting me 49 points was...
Texas was one of my most unlucky races because I was going to hit like 3 long shot top 10s. I was going to hit like 25 to 1 on Zane, 20 to 1 on Stenhouse or something bullshit, I was set to make fucking bank, set for the rest of the season at Texas. And I lost my ass. I went like negative 9.5 units instead of plus 9.5. And it would have been even more than that if a couple other things had worked out. It could have been like a 20 unit day at Texas. Instead it was a minus 9 unit day.
Frustrating.
Yeah. And that's just Texas. I mean, look, Gateway last week, Sonoma this week. Right? It's nonstop. It's nonstop. Right. The beats this year. But hey, I love it. I know people get frustrated by losing, and I certainly have fewer people tailing my bets these days than normal. But That just means they're going to miss out on the hot streaks when they come.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we saw it last year. You went through a cold streak and then...
And then I ended up like 50 units in the last month of the season.
Scorched earth the second half of the year.
It wasn't even the second half of the year. It was literally like August, halfway through August to the end of the season. But yeah, because the summer was like my super cold streak. I had like a 3-month stretch there. I went like minus 25 units. But then all of a sudden I ended up plus 25 units. So I went like plus 50 units in the last 2.5 months of the season. So hopefully that happens again. There's no guarantee. I think it's very highly likely to end up in the season negative this year. Really glad I hit that Reddick stage bet. Oh, I will say I had a good IndyCar race too. So I didn't lose money this past weekend. I just didn't win as much as I could have or should have.
Always a positive there. But, all right, we got Gilliland. We both got Gilliland in the 36 or 36. I got Keselowski. You got Logano in picks to win. And hopefully this race isn't a shitbag special. Hopefully we get a good race. The first ever Cup race at Iowa Speedway. Iowa Speedway. For some reason I thought it was Raceway. But then we get New Hampshire next week. But Sunday night race, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we'll be back next week to talk about New Hampshire. See you guys.